my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Soultuary The Podcast. I am so excited about today's episode because we have a very special guest. Any guest that I bring on here, I feel like is so special and like impactful in my life. Is that even word? That's right. I said that right.
Yeah.
Makes such an impact has made such an impact in my life. So today I have my very good friend, Stefani. Welcome, Stefani.
Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you. I'm so excited about the convo that we're going to be having today because we're going to be talking about things that I've never talked about in public, like to the people. So I'm super excited. So Stefani, tell us a little bit about like your backstory, what it is that you do, what got you to where you are right now.
That's a great question. How long do you have on this podcast?
We got as long as we want. You know, some podcasts, I think one of my podcasts ended up being like an hour and like 30 minutes. I was like, holy crap, that's long. So, I mean, we kind of run the show. Great. So we can, nobody's telling us what to do. So
I don't want to bore anybody with this ridiculous story, but I'm from the South. I'm from Tennessee. And I've always had this itch to do entertainment industry stuff. I've always wanted to be in the film industry. I love it. I had a radio station when I was like 10. I'd invite my sisters on and we'd have this little radio station. I know. So entertaining has always been something that I find joy in. And I'm like, that can't be for nothing. You know, I think we all have a desire in our hearts of what we're supposed to be doing. And however your path integrates around to get to that end goal, you're always going to be following that.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to school for theater. Okay. Because I loved acting. I loved, again, entertaining, being on stages and talking to people and just making people feel good about themselves or feeling some kind of emotion. I think emotion is really important.
For sure.
And then I was going to buy a house in Tennessee in 2008, which we all know what happened in 2008. The market fell out. And I said, if this house doesn't work, I'm moving to California because I always wanted to be in California.
So, love California.
Yeah, I do too. So the house fell through. I moved to California. I was like, I'm going to be an actress. I'm going to do this. So started doing auditions and worked a lot with Disney and the Jonas Brothers and Wizards of Waverly Place. And I had a lot of fun.
So fun.
Yeah. And I met my husband out there. And then I had a friend who was like, hey, come help me produce this project. I think you'll do great. I was like, I don't want to produce. I want to be a famous actress. And just like everybody in LA. And he invited me to do it. I did it. I fell in love with it. I was like, I love producing. I get control over the project. And I felt really in my power. And I loved when people would tell me no because I could always get them to say yes later down the road. And it was this challenge that I wasn't really getting acting. So I started producing, and then we produced the first independently produced web series that got picked up on Hulu when Hulu was getting started. And then I produced a couple of Netflix.
I didn't actually even know all of this. This is so cool. I knew that you were like super into the acting world, but I forgot all of the little pieces in between of like what happened then and like the Stefani now. Yep. So
how we got here.
I love that.
I picked up a really great documentary working with a famous celebrity, which I'm not allowed to talk about. It's kind of had a thing. So, but that was really fun. I got to travel around the world working with this particular individual. Super and then cool. I was like, great, I like documentaries. Let's do this. So I picked up another documentary called The Leaf of Faith, which we sold on Netflix. And then David and I were like, we need to kind of figure out what our passion is. Like, we like documentaries. We like helping people. Let's take a little breather. So we moved to Miami. And that's when Marissa connected us together, which was awesome. We have a mutual friend, Marissa.
My bestie.
And I was like, I don't have any friends. She's like, you got to meet my best friend. You're going to love her. And then we were introduced and I fell in love with you.
Yeah,
you were amazing.
Literally same.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Same.
And every time we get together, Stefani has this power over me. I tell you this all the time. She makes me cry every single time.
I do.
So we might end up crying on this freaking podcast.
I hope we do. It'd be great. It'd be vulnerable and beautiful. So we connected. We immediately connected. We went to lunch. I was like, I love you. You're like my long lost best friend.
I know.
So we kind of got dragged through the mud out here in Miami. And I was like, wow, this can't be what life is about. What are we missing? So we started doing pro bono work and sharing people's stories out here in Miami as to who wouldn't maybe necessarily get a platform to do so. So we worked with this 18-year-old kid who was cleaning up the oceans, and it really inspired me to want to like help give back to the ocean. And so by doing that, we started connecting with more people. We landed a really great gig out here, and then COVID hit. So I was like, okay, is this the end of our journey again? Like, what is this? So we decided we've always wanted to do van life. So we bought a van, built it out, left our condo
Super
here in
cool.
Miami. We traveled around the country for about a year.
I remember that.
And we saw
Was that 2020?
2020, yeah.
Okay.
And so we saw our 2021. 2021.
Okay.
And we met up with a lot of our clients that we weren't able to see because all the airlines were halted at that time. So we had the best time of our lives during COVID. I know not everybody shares that same story. And so I feel for that, but we really had a great time.
Yeah. I mean, what a perfect time to do that.
Right?
Like literally nobody can really like, everybody's scared of flying. Everybody's scared of traveling. And like, you guys are just here in your van, like seeing everything, doing everything. I'm sure that was like such a magical experience.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do something like that.
And we got to see nature. And for me, that's what I was missing. You know, being in sky rises and in big cities, I was like, I just want to be with the trees. So
no, I feel that.
Yeah.
I like I've had the most beautiful experiences in nature. That's why like, especially being an earth sign, like I feel so connected to nature. Like when I went to Yosemite, oh my God, I've never experienced God like more than I have there. In Joshua Tree, I had such a beautiful experience there. Like literally everywhere that I've been, Zion is incredible everywhere. I mean, you've been, so you know.
It's
know,
awesome.
like,
I mean, I would tell everybody, like, get up and go see the country. There's so much to see within the United States that we just don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know, and every time I'm like, wow.
It's insane. It feels like, it's like, how do I live here?
Yes.
And like not know that like,
right.
this is out, like, I don't know, like that this is out there. It's just unreal. It feels like you're in another like world, but really like all these locations are like in our backyard, like literally just a few hours of flying and you're there.
Yeah. And people need to do it, or just drive, get in a car, go do it.
Yeah.
You know, go
I
walk.
mean,
Even every state, I feel like almost every state in the United States has a national park.
For sure.
Go see it.
Didn't you do like every national park?
Not yet. There's so many. I think
Okay.
we tackled maybe 22 now, but I don't know how many.
How many is your total? Do you know?
I should know this. We'll put an insert somewhere in here. I should know this. I mean, I know there's at least 50. So
okay. Yeah.
we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But not every state has a national park.
Oh,
Like I don't think
really?
North Dakota does. I could be wrong.
Really?
Nobody judge me. Yeah. But South Dakota
I have no
has
idea.
Badlands. Yeah.
I have no idea.
Dork moment.
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't even know how many states. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not that. I'm just kidding.
Is Puerto Rico one of them states? Yeah, so we did the van life thing. We had a great time, and then we were going to buy land in Nashville and like in Tennessee area and just go off grid there. And then I always feel like sometimes the universe or God has a different plan. My favorite quote is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah.
I always think I'm in control, and then I get smacked. It's like, no, you're not. Get back in line.
Yep.
So we ended up buying a place in Destin, Florida, and we've just been really trying to focus that producing and brand marketing and strategizing, that all the tactics we've learned, all the tactics that we've learned, we've been trying to apply those into other businesses. And so far we've been scaling businesses 30% with high quality video content. And that's
amazing.
Kind of the path we're on now. And then side projects will be producing documentaries and helping the masses.
I love that for you guys.
Thank you.
Literally, you are the most perfect person for that. You and David. Love David too.
He's amazing.
You guys are like such a like power couple together, honestly. Especially I say that because Stefani has had such a like big impact and role in my life and like in my healing journey. Like you were a part of, I feel like right after I did one of the biggest things in my life, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I just feel like you've been able to like navigate me and guide me to like things that I haven't even known for myself, which is so wild, which is why every time that we've been together, I end up freaking crying because you're like, well, like, have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? And like, what made you feel that? And I'm like, and then it was like so new to me to start exploring my feelings and my emotions. And it's like, wait, that does make me feel like this. And I do feel like this. And like, so again, you are like the most perfect person to like tell people stories. And I feel so connected to that because for me, I've always known that I've wanted to share people's stories, which is why I actually originally started the podcast, because I'm like, I want to share people's stories. I want to have conversations with people and hear like about their lives and like what they've been through, because we all have a story to tell, whether you believe that or not. Every single person here has a story to tell, and everybody's story can impact people. It's just it's like it involves like so much vulnerability that we don't want to do it, but whenever you do share your story, it's really impactful.
It's so true. And that I literally just had a conversation with a marketing friend of mine yesterday. I was like, people need to start sharing their stories. That's what marketing is all about. And we forget that key component, which is where I feel David and I come in really strongly, is that we'll tell your stories. We'll tell your brand story.
Yeah.
We'll tell your business story. We'll tell your personal story, because everyone has one. And that's the whole point, is to connect and to impact others.
Yes.
And I think that's where documentary filmmaking has been such a huge inspiration for us, and like getting to know your story and watching your path, and just how do we use that story to help other people?
Yes.
Because there's nothing that happens to you for accident. It's to always help somebody else.
Yeah.
To be in their shoes. And the second you're like, you judge somebody, you better watch out. The universe is going to spank your bottom and be like, now it's your turn to see it. See it from the other side.
Yeah.
And if you're aware of it, you can see it and you can navigate it. And you're like, okay, it's because I thought I knew about this, but now I'm having to see it from their side. And it sucks. And you have more compassion for other people.
1,000%. But it's hard because, for the past 2 years, I feel like I've been more open than I ever have. Obviously going through my divorce and going through leaving the church world. It's been really hard because I have been so open. I haven't been as open as I want to, because I just don't want to throw people under the bus. But I don't know. What was I going to say here?
Give me an example. Give me an example. You don't have to give any names, but give me an example of something that maybe you didn't want to throw somebody under the bus for.
So after, I can't believe I'm talking about this.
Let's talk about it. Because it can help somebody else who might be going through that same situation.
I actually want to do a whole podcast on this and just kind of dive deeper into this, because I felt very misunderstood after my divorce, where people just saw things online and it just made it out to seem like I was the bad guy.
Give me an example.
Okay, somebody's crying on stage. Meanwhile, whenever the divorce happened, it was just kind of like, all right, if you don't want me, I don't want you. And it was just like, all right, see ya, get out of my life type of thing.
And how did other people perceive that, you think?
Oh, people have no idea about that.
Oh.
I never talked about this. All I said, I remember when I talked about my divorce, was that okay, we have decided to part ways, we're amicable, we're cool, we're good. But oh my God, the hurt and pain that I dealt with for these past 2 years of just those are the last things I ever heard, was if you don't want me, I don't want you. Oh my God, I had to go to therapy. I was in therapy every single month religiously, just trying to heal from that, because it was you give your whole life and your whole heart to somebody, and then for them to just be all right, see ya.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like such a conditional love, that it was if you don't want me, I don't want you. When it was it took me so much strength to get to that place to leave, because obviously I left because of so many reasons, which again, I'll go super in depth on one podcast. But it took, I feel like it took me finding my power to make that decision. And I don't know. It's just, I feel like the people have no idea, because everybody's like, but you seem so happy. You seem so good. And it's no, I was actually really depressed for a long time, a really, really long time. I was depressed from when I was 15 to when I was I want to say 25, and a lot of it was continuous things. I felt very, some of the same feelings that I had when I used to cut myself when I was a teen were kind of the same in the relationship that I was in. I never felt worthy enough. I never felt significant. I never, everything was based off of what I could do to make other people's life better type of thing. I don't know. Yeah. I just never felt worthy enough. And nobody ever saw that. I never talked about it. That's why I think I always have been such an advocate for be yourself, because I was striving so hard to be myself. But people never really saw the behind the scenes, because I couldn't show the behind the scenes, because I had to be this perfect pastor's wife.
Right.
So all that to say, there's just so much backstory that comes with I don't know, whenever you share your story, it's hard because people will judge based off of what they see, not what they actually know. And I lost so many quote unquote friendships. I lost, oh my God, people blocked me. People the amount of messages I got, people were you're a slut, you're a hoe, you're this, you're that, mean stuff. You're a terrible person. How could you do that? When it's you have no idea what I went through, So yeah, all that to say, sharing your story is hard because yes, even though a lot of people are like love it and are there for you and like it's helpful to so many people, it's also really hard.
Yeah.
And like you'll get a lot of like negative in return, I guess. At least that's how I, you know.
Do you feel like the people that left your life were people that you needed to leave your life?
Oh,
like
1,000%.
You lost.
Oh, 1,000%.
Mm-hmm. And so I think at times when we're going through these processes in our lives, it's a blessing, you know. And I know that I know your ex-husband, and we were all friends and whatever, you know. So I have nothing bad to say about either of you or anybody involved, because it's all just a big lesson.
Oh, for sure. I would do it all over again to be in the space that I am again.
But I also see who you are with your current boyfriend, whom I just think brings out the best version of you. And I can see the difference. And there's a polarity there. And anybody who's in your life who can see the difference between who you were and who you are, you're so much happier. You're more authentic. I feel like you were having to portray a certain way, and like your last partner wasn't allowing you to be that. And maybe it wasn't necessarily even him who wasn't allowing you, because we don't, you know, we give our power to whomever, whatever, however you want to call that.
Yeah.
Do you feel, and we can do the divorce one later, I don't want to get too involved, but did you feel like maybe you chose your ex because there was a pattern with you of like not being able to be yourself? So that was kind of what you knew.
Oh,
and
for
so
sure.
You stuck with somebody that you knew you couldn't be authentically yourself.
I literally dissected all of this in therapy, because I was like, how did that happen? How did I go through a relationship where like I never felt like I could be myself? Because I kind of felt like that like in my younger years, where it was always like I always had a butt, I always had a body. So like I remember just growing up, it was like my parents, you know, had me going to church and stuff like that. Like my parents always did the best that they could. But I remember there was like always points in time where like I just always felt like, you know, you can't wear this because it's too revealing. You can't do this because it's too much. You can't, like, I feel like my whole life I've always been too much or too little. And I've never been just enough for anyone until now, you know, which is like the most beautiful thing. And like, that's why I'm like, people thought that me showing off my relationship was like this bad thing where she's like, oh, she's just trying to make other people like feel bad. But really it's just, I've never felt better in my life. And like, obviously I'm going to show that. And I want people to know that like, you shouldn't just settle for anything in your life. If you're not with somebody that doesn't make you wholeheartedly feel like yourself, number one, and feel like you're enough, then like you should probably really like dive deep into that. Because the relationships that we have, friendships, romantic relationships, every relationship, we should feel significant enough to be in that relationship. Yeah. And I didn't feel that for so many freaking years. So yeah,
because we go back to what we know. And I think if we can recognize the patterns, then you get off that merry-go-round. But so often we're just stuck on it. We're like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening again? Oh my God, I've been here before. Why is this happening again? It's always me. You go down this rabbit hole of woe is me. But if you just stop for a second and say, okay, I recognize this. I've been here before. Why are we here again? How can I go deeper? How can I figure out what's really going on? And, you know, spending time in meditation and other things that we'll get involved in, it really helps you just rip those Band-Aids off. And you're like, wow, I have to see myself. And it's not fun. It's not. It's one of the most painful things you'll ever go through, but it's so worth it. Yeah. And you feel just like you can breathe. And I'm sure that's exactly how you felt when you got out of your last relationship. And now you're like, wow, this is what it's all about. This is love. I thought that was love. But this is love. So
I was like portrayed that like, it's so wild because I was portrayed that like love is freedom. I was so tied to the idea that I remember I would post about it all the time. Love is freedom. Love is freedom. Yes, it's freedom, but also you also need to feel committed. You also need to feel wanted and desired. Because I remember I'm like, oh, my ex, I would go on trips, you know, like for work, like literally for like a week, maybe like 5, you know, like sometimes 5 days. I would go by myself. And I'd be like, and people would be like, oh, like you're just going by yourself on these trips. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Like, because, you know, he had other things to do, whatever. Like he wouldn't care really to go with me. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. But I was like so convinced that I was like, love is freedom. He's just allowing me to be free. When now I realize like who I am, that's not ever what I wanted. Like I've always wanted to like be with my partner and do things with my partner, feel desired. Like I remember I would go on these trips and then like we wouldn't even talk. We wouldn't talk for days. And I'd be like, oh, but like, you know, we're just giving each other space because love is freedom. We love each other. So like we're free to do whatever we want. And I would not be bothered. But really deep down inside, I'd be like, damn, I feel so alone. I feel so unwanted. I feel like I'm basically by myself in this world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wild.
But that independence part that allowed you to be alone, it allowed you to really find yourself, so that when you did find RJ, you were like, wow, I can share this version of myself who's complete with him.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think oftentimes in relationships, we go into it thinking that we're going to get complete from our partner, and that's not the way it goes, because you're always going to be disappointed. Your expectations will never be met. You have to go in feeling whole and allow them to teach you about yourself. And that's one of the things I love about marketing too, is like you get to see people, and in relationships, you get to see relationships, but it's hard to see yourself. It's always hard, because I could be like, how do I market our own business? How do I see us? Yeah.
So we had this conversation the other day, how it was like, it's so easy for us to like help other people. Yes. But when it comes to like marketing ourselves and like helping ourselves, it's like we overthink everything. Yes. Because like we're our toughest critic. We're like, and I think a lot of that has to do too with like knowing how capable we are. So we want it to be perfect.
Yeah. And repressing our power. I think that's one of the big lessons I've always learned is I shrink myself down, because I don't mean this to ever sound conceited, but sometimes I'm like, I have so much power within me that I don't ever want anybody to feel uncomfortable or to feel less than around me.
Oh my God, I have felt that before too.
For so many times, I shrink myself. And like I find myself, even my posture, I'll catch myself doing this, where like I want to hide my heart, I want to hide my throat, I want to shrink myself, because I don't think people can support the power that if I actually open up, I wonder if my friends will be my friends. I wondered if my family would be.
I know,
like, wow,
you know how many times you've apologized to me? You're like, I'm sorry you did that. I'm like, Stefan, I remember we had a whole thing not too long ago where you're like, I'm sorry, was I too much? Did I do too little? Did I do this? And I'm like, Stefani, you're perfect.
Yeah. But I forget, I could go into these moments where I like shrink, and then I'm like, what the fuck can I curse on this thing?
Yes, you can curse. Hell yeah, we can do whatever we want.
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Get in your power. Stop being a little bitch. Yes. Let's go. And then I puff back up. I'm like, oh, I feel good at this part in my life. When I shrink myself, I start repressing. And
why do you think you like do that?
You know, well, do you want to get into the other part? Because I kind of learned it.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So I can't believe let me just say, I can't believe we're actually going to talk about this, because I know, I'm getting nervous because I've never actually told anyone about this. Mm-hmm. I don't know, because, so I actually shared what I did with, I remember, the wrong person. I can remember this moment to the T, and I remember her just judging me hard when I was like on this high, and I was like, this changed my life. Like, I'm a new person. Like, you don't get it. I used to cut myself. Like, I was depressed. Like, I didn't want to live. I had no reason to live. And then I did this like life-changing thing. And like, I just felt like, holy shit, I can do and be great things. You know, like the world is right here in my, at my palm. Like, I am in control of my future and my present. And it's just like, I got to see and I got to experience God at a whole other level. That I remember I was at a point where I was just like, I think I'm atheist.
I think we should tell people. What do you think? Are you ready to rip the Band-Aid off?
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about it. Okay. So back in 2019, I did something that just like drastically really just changed my life. And drum roll. Okay. I did something called Ayahuasca. And Ayahuasca is actually a plant medicine. So it's really like this whole journey that you take. Like, it is intense. Like, Stefani did it too.
I did it
and
too.
You did it how long ago?
I did it in 2022.
Okay, and you did
last
like...
year? No, it was 2021. We went to Costa Rica. And there's a whole story behind it, but I want to.
Yours was like several days, right?
Well, I had a friend who gave me this book. He was like, I went to this event. I found this book. I don't know why I thought of you. He gave me this book and I read it. I was like, oh my God, ayahuasca. I want to do it.
Do you remember what book it was?
Yes, I do.
What book?
It was Shit the Moon Says. So it was written by, I get to that, right? So the book was really awesome. And I was telling Marissa about it. I was like, I love this book. I want to do ayahuasca. Well, fast forward 5 years later, our executive producer on our Netflix documentary was like, I'm going to go to Costa Rica and do this thing called ayahuasca. Do you want to go? And without hesitation, I was like, I'm going. Yes, I'm going. Count me in. And then it turns out the place we went was the place that was in the book, that the book was written about.
Oh, wow. And I was like, I just literally got chills. Right? Holy shit.
I was like, it's meant to be. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to go through this journey. And it was just so fascinating. It was and I I hadn't really done, I'm not a drug.
Wait, so let's tell people what ayahuasca is.
Okay,
so they don't think.
Ayahuasca is a plant. It's a
Yes.
root from the jungle, and indigenous people use it for thousands of years to go deeper and to find God and to be healing and medicine healers. And so they use it to help with the psyche and to go deep. I mean, I'm assuming this is all what it's for, right? To help within their communities.
Yeah, there's actually like churches that they have to like be churches in order to like do the ceremonies.
To administer it.
Yeah, so they are ceremonies run by shamans, and this thing just really takes you deep within. And actually, I think it has like DMT.
Yes.
Right? It has DMT in it. It's the root of a plant, like you said, and it's like a tea that you drink that's really gross. So really what it is like it's a ceremony. The shaman prepares it. The shaman like kind of has like, you stay overnight. Stefani did like a 2-day thing.
We did it was a whole week, so it was 4 ceremonies back to back to back. We didn't know because I thought that was normal.
Wild. Yeah. So I did one night and that was like intense.
Yeah.
So like you literally, I can't believe I'm talking about this.
Do it.
You literally throw up,
Yes.
you shit, like it's intense.
Some people though, not everybody.
Oh, I have everyone.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, so
actually, except for one.
you
And
purge. Some
yes,
people purge
it's called,
from yawning. Some people purge from crying. Some people purge from sneezing. It's a purge.
So all of these things are a release, and you literally feel it as you are like. I remember there's just so many deep interactions that I had that like I had a release, and I was like, whoa. It's just life changing. I'm telling you, after I did this, like I was at that point where I was just like, I don't think I believe in God anymore. There's no point of life. Like, what am I here for? And then I had that experience and I was like, whoa, this is God. I remember just feeling like, I'm getting chills just talking about this again. But like, I remember just like feeling so connected to everyone around me and just like the earth. I remember sitting and standing in the grass, like I was barefoot, and I was just like, whoa, you are a part of me and I am a part of you. And looking at the sky, and I'm like, you are a reflection of me. And just like having these beautiful moments where it's like, wow, life is beyond beautiful. This experience, this journey is so beautiful. So like I said, I used to be really, really depressed. And okay, so before I say that, ayahuasca is something that I feel like you have to be called to.
Agreed.
So one of my good friends, she's like literally such a beautiful human. Her name is Sasha. She actually told me about ayahuasca, and I remember she invited me to like a ceremony, and for some reason I remember I was like looking into it. So it's like a thing you have to like fast before doing it, and you have to like take it really serious, like eat certain foods. Like you shouldn't you need to go in with like a good stomach.
No alcohol, no sex. You have to like really
cleanse yourself. Yeah. In order to be like in the right space to receive whatever it is that you need to receive. Everybody's journey is so different. I've done 3 ceremonies, and every ceremony was so different with so many different lessons. And then I even did a ceremony with a different shaman, and I had not so good of an experience with her because I don't know what it was. I just felt like a lot of dark energy. But my first experience, I remember feeling super called to it, and I was just like, I did this back in 2019, and I was just like, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to do this ceremony. I felt so like literally I just felt called to it, and I was nervous as heck because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I had no idea what to expect. So I remember one of my like life-changing experiences and moments in the ceremony was, so like there's a campfire like in the middle, and I remember there were a few people sitting around it. We did it like in the backyard of like this giant house. And I remember sitting outside of the circle. And for a lot of my life, I felt very excluded. Again, not enough, So I remember sitting outside of this circle, looking at people, like a few of them were hugging around the fire. And I remember just thinking, wow, community, relationships, like togetherness, it's so beautiful. We are here to coexist. We are here for love. We are here to be here for one another. And then I remember just like getting instant flashes of like my childhood where I felt so alone, so depressed, and like felt like I was never enough. And then I remember like this voice in my head was literally just like, Emily, look at what you're doing. You can experience that. You are a part of that, but you block yourself off. Look at what you're doing right now. This is a pure example of what you do with everything and everyone. you close yourself off and you take yourself out of that circle. So I remember just had this freaking moment where I was like, whoa, my depression is because of me.
Right.
It's because I've been, quote unquote, guarding my heart and like blocking myself from love because I think it's safer out here when really it's lonely out here. You know, so I just had like this intense experience, this intense like moment where I was like, oh my God,
wow,
I am in charge of like this. Like, I don't need to be depressed. Like, it's me. I am in my own way. So it was like this huge moment. I remember I just like started crying. And I'm like, wow, I am meant for love. Like, I am meant to experience love just like everybody else. So like after that moment, I remember I like purged. I released like for like a good minute there. And then that was when I was just like, after that, my life changed like dramatic. I mean, I had so many other moments within that journey, but I just remember like after I realized that I had the power to experience the life that I want to experience, that it's in my hands, like it just changed everything. Mm-hmm. And it's such a simple thing that we can literally come to terms with, like just by meditation. You know, like we don't need these plant medicines to come to that conclusion, but for me, I did. Mm-hmm. And it, again, changed my life. Okay, so tell me about yours.
I don't even know where to begin.
Tell me.
I love your experience too, because I think oftentimes, like we were talking about earlier, we want to project that it's somebody else's fault. It's them, it's me against them.
Yeah.
When really,
like everybody hates me.
Yeah.
Like I'm the victim here.
Yeah. And if we could just kind of take a second and say, how am I doing this? What am I doing to me? How am I creating this? Because we're just creators.
Yes.
You know, God created us in his image. He's a creator. If we're his image, we are also creators, right?
Yes.
I don't really know where that just came from. So thank you, universe.
I love that. I love that. And that, I tell people this all the time. I like post about this all the time. I'm like, everybody is a creative in one form or another. Like you are creating your life. Mm-hmm. You know, like you have the power to do whatever it is that you want. Like,
so what do you want to create? Yeah, do you want to create good? Do you want to create bad? And there's no such thing as good or bad, in my opinion. It's just energy. It's just is. So how we perceive it is really, really what you want to get down to. Do you perceive things as, oh, good things are always happening to me, bad things are always happening to me? Or are things just happening and you're just witnessing it?
Yeah.
And you're just a part of it. Your energy. Like this isn't even a real microphone. These are just a bunch of little atoms stuck together. We're talking, we're making sound. Yeah. Cool. It's waves.
I like to say that life is for me.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, I know that everything is working for the good.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, like, look, I was really frustrated when I got here today because
I know I felt it. I was going to tell you. Yeah. Like, that's why I was like, we need to meditate.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we need a silent moment because I literally felt your energy and I was like, shit, is that my energy too? I'm like, I think we're both, even from when we texted each other this morning, I felt it.
I was like frustrated. I think because there were all these, it just kept snowballing. You know, my dog got a hold of some marijuana outside of our Airbnb and I had to take him to the emergency vet. I was like, cool. I know, I felt so bad for him. He was just so scared.
I've been there. I've been there with my dog. Remember?
Yeah. And
my dog had Adderall. Yeah. That's why he's a crackhead. My poor baby.
They just get into stuff, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, he ate my Louis Vuitton. I'm like, okay, it's just a purse, whatever. Yeah. It's replaceable.
It's funny because when I saw that on your story, I'm like, it's Stefani. She's like, I already know she's not even free. Because I was like, the Louis Vuitton. And I already was like thinking of you in my head. And I'm like, Stefani's already like, it's just a material thing. Yeah. Whatever.
I mean, he had my Gucci belt in his mouth when we got in. I was like, ooh, I would have killed you, bro. I would have skinned you alive. So I was like, okay, just let it go. It already happened. I can't be upset. Like, what am I going to do? Punish him? He doesn't know. He's a dog.
Yeah.
So then, you know, on the way yesterday, taking our friend to the airport, we get a freaking nail in our tire. And we just replaced our tires. And I was like, oh my God. And like David's, he's freaking out. And I'm like, whatever, which made him more mad. He's like, wow, are you whatever? I'm like, because it's just what's happening. There's some kind of energy flow happening, and I just have to kind of push it aside and not take it on. I have to laugh about it because it is what it is. When I think that, quote, bad things are happening, I don't know why I keep doing these.
Yeah. I do it too, though. I might have started that because I do that a lot because I'm like, nothing is like actually real.
Yeah.
Unless we believe it to be real.
Yes.
So that's why I do that a lot. And I'm like, quote unquote.
I pull it into like, the world, you know? So I find that I was like, you know, it's just not a big deal. I could be mad about it, but it's just something's just moving and I have to trust it. I have to trust this flow and just know that it's not happening to me. It's just, it is what it is. Whatever. Yeah. So when I got here today, I was just, I had to take that like, grunt, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
I know.
So as much as I'm like, I'm letting it go, it's not a big deal. It's like, okay. Annoying.
Yeah. But you're also, so that's like the fine line of like knowing that you're human and you're allowed to experience this and you're allowed to feel that.
Yeah.
You're allowed to feel frustrated. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to, because I feel like for me, for so many years, I didn't allow myself that because of the spirituality that I was taught or like living, where it's like, no, everything is good. Everything is like perfect. And you like, it is what it is. Oh, the fucking phrase. It is what it is. Drives me insane because yes, it is what it is, but I'm still a human living in this physical body and I still have feelings. I still have emotions. I still can be angry. I still can be sad. I still can be whatever my body needs to be, because at the end of the day, these feelings are my guides and they remind me that I can be back. I need to realign myself in order to be back into that like aligned space.
Yeah. You're here being a human, so don't forget to be a human. So oftentimes I think when we start to evolve in spirituality, we become this blissful thing, which is great, but you also have to get brought back down sometimes and be like, you're here for a reason. You're here doing what you're supposed to be doing. Go through it. We're in a lesson. It's just a big giant school and we're all learning together. We might be at different phases in our schooling, but we're still in the school together. So don't be afraid.
It never ends.
It never ends.
Yeah,
even when you die, you're
that's
like,
the
oh,
beauty.
where are we going next?
Yeah, that's the beauty and like the sucky thing about it, because it's like, damn, lessons are just, they're just going to keep coming. Like this journey is never ending.
Yeah. And that's why sometimes, like, I know this is going to sound really morbid, but I think when some people commit suicide, I try not to ever judge that, because the depression that, I don't. So tired of all of this. Like they feel like they have to leave this world. Well,
I have felt that before. And like, just from my personal, cause I've thought about that so many times where I'm just like, oh, and that's why I share my story. And that's why I like speak so openly about my depression, because I want people to know that like, you don't have to, but I understand it. But at the same time, it's like life is so beautiful if you just go within and like find the beauty of life and know that you are in control. Yeah. You know, like that's why I share this so much, because like, the beauty that you can have of life is like.
And when you say you're in control, I just want to clarify, because sometimes we feel like we're in control of every single thing happening. So I don't know if that's what you mean, or if you mean like,
oh, no.
You're in control of how you react to what happens in
that's
your
what
environment.
I mean.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Because obviously we're not in control of
I can't
a car accident. Yeah. A car accident. Yeah. I probably should have stated, I should state that better, but you're in control of navigating your feelings and emotions and like, you know, like that's what I mean. Like,
no, I get
if
what
you want to go and start a business, like you are in control of that. Yeah. You know, nobody's going to start it for you. If you want to be happy today, nobody else can do that for you. You choose that, you know, like you choose to go into that feeling. So
I agree. And I think you said it perfectly. I just wanted to clarify.
No, haters. No, it's, I think about that all the time too. I'm like, shoot, when I re-listen, I'm like, shoot, I should have stated that better, because I'm like, I don't want people to think like,
I know, but also who cares? But people are going to think what they want. It's going to have nothing to do with you. It's really just a reflection of who they are and how they perceive. And that's been a really hard lesson too, because I want to be a people pleaser. It's in my nature. I want everyone to be happy and to be their best versions. And if I can help control that, again, quotes. This is so annoying. For those of you who are just listening, I'm putting up air quotes. It's just an annoying habit. But that's the thing. You know, you want to help, and I haven't had to work through my people pleasing. Yeah. But I learned that through ayahuasca. That was one of my journeys. That when I went through, I was like, why am I a people pleaser? And I think it's because I had to be I chose to be a certain way growing up so that I could make sure my mom was okay, my sisters were okay, my dad was okay. I come from a split background, and my parents divorced when I was really young, and it was really toxic for us growing up. And I found that making sure everybody else was okay allowed me to make sure I was okay. Like if I could laugh about something or make a joke or again, entertain, this is where the entertainment thing came in maybe, where if my parents were fighting, I could find the lightness in it, and I could dissolve it for them. I could make sure they were okay. But in making sure everybody else around me was okay, I neglected myself and what I needed. And I learned that was kind of abuse. And so I had all these lessons, like I'm an abuser because I abuse myself. I'm a liar because I lie to myself. I'm a cheater because I cheat myself. And I had all these like lessons, one right after the other. I'm an addict. I'm addicted to work. I'm addicted to pleasing. So all these things that I would look at other people like, you're a liar, you're a cheater, you're an addict. Well, it's like, hey, stick those fingers in your own face, because you're doing just those same exact things to yourself. And that was like, ayahuasca really showed me those things. And that's why I talk about being in other people's shoes. Sometimes we can easily point, but we're only pointing because we can relate. And we see a part of ourselves in other people. And that's like, that's the hardest part of spiritual awakening, is seeing yourself in everything. And you're like, oh, this sucks. You know, like, oh, so-and-so is doing this. Well, why do you recognize that? Because you do it too. And seeing yourself in that space when you're like, that is so nasty what they're doing. And then you have to see yourself as this nasty being. You're like, oof. How do I make myself not be nasty? I want to be the best version of me. So that was a big lesson. And then I found too, like tapping into my feminine side. I think growing up, again, being kind of battered by myself and just being around men a lot. I was always surrounded by guys. It's just been, I've always been a guy's friend.
1,000% relate.
I didn't want to be around women. It was like drama and people were just talking.
God, yes.
And I was like, and the bullying and the name. I just didn't like it.
And it still is around today, which is so crazy to me, because it's like these grown ass women and adults. That's why I cannot stand for anything or anyone that's like mean girls. And I've seen it so much, so much.
And I think women don't realize how powerful they are. And that was one of the lessons that I had to go through was, again, trying to be around guys all the time. And I wore it as a badge of honor. Like, I'm a guy's friend. I don't hang out with girls because of that. I would judge women. I'm like, they're that and I'm not that. And what I learned through ayahuasca was, wait a second, you think the masculine is where the power is. The power is actually in the feminine. And once you get it, it's going to change your life. And I'm like, and I don't cry. I'm not a crier. Look at all these,
oh my God, same.
Look at all these girls crying.
And then I was like, I'm tough. That's how I was raised too. It's tough. Like, you are tough. You don't cry. Why are you crying? You're not a baby. Like, suck it up. Be a big girl. Put your big girl panties on, like, that's part of actually what we were talking about earlier, going into that like whole feminine thing, where like my dad, I love him and I'm so grateful that he raised me to be such an independent woman. But in my relationship, it was almost like I became the man and I became so independent, and I was like, I can do everything on my own. I don't need anything or anyone. But now, like being with RJ, I'm like so in my feminine, and I'm like, he's like, you can do that. I'm like, yeah, but I realize I don't have to. So like, that's what I have you for. Like the other day, it was the cutest thing. I had such a moment with this because like I texted him. I remember I was in the car. It was pouring rain. And I was like, I can't go in. Like, it's raining really hard. I don't have an umbrella. Like 2 minutes, like not even 2 minutes later, a minute later, I see him run outside. It's like pouring, like downpouring. Like he just runs outside. He's getting soaking wet, looking for his umbrella in his car. And then he shows up at my door, like with the umbrella. And I'm like, I'm like, where have you been my whole life?
What a sweet
like,
chivalry,
Yeah.
Whereas before you'd have to get out and get in the rain and find your umbrella.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was my past. And people wonder. Yeah. So
and there are moments too, like with David, even, like yesterday when we had our flat tire, I know how to change a tire. I'm independent. My parents raised me to be the feminine and the masculine. So I've always had this chip on my shoulder. Like, I don't need no man. I got this. I can do both.
We think that's like power.
We think it's power. And I'm still working on this today. Like, I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm still learning today to where David has to remind me, like, let me be the man. And I have to allow him.
Yeah. And a lot of it is that.
Yeah. And I demasculated him for so long in our marriage, where I was like, I don't need that. I don't want you to do that. I got this. Like, crossing the street, he would pull me back because a car's coming. I'm like, I see it. I got it. I got it. He's like, honey, I'm just trying to be the man.
Just
like,
trying to protect you. Yeah.
And then after a while, I was like, he's not stepping up. He's not doing that. Well, no wonder why he's not doing all that. Cause I'm demasculating this poor guy. I
remember we had this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was really hard for our marriage, and we had to have some moments, and I had to really see myself, cause so often I wanted to point out that it was him. And even during ayahuasca, I had that huge awakening cause he went with me. He's like, I don't want you going by yourself. And I was like, that's so sweet. Fine. I can go by myself. But deep down,
I love that he did that with you.
I know, because deep down, I really wanted him to go with me. I'm like, I don't want to go to the jungle by myself.
Yeah.
So, and his experience was completely different, and that's one of the things I want to talk about with ayahuasca is, like you were saying, everyone's experience is different. And so if you're feeling called to do it, there's something that is underlying. And I think Mother Aya will reach out and she's like, you need to do it. Obviously, talk to your doctor. This is like, we're not promoting ayahuasca. We're just sharing our experiences here. together. But for me, I knew it was something I needed to do, and I knew I needed to go deeper because I wasn't getting to that point in my meditations the way I wanted to, and I knew there was something I needed to heal, and it wasn't just something; it was like a number of things, and it was all these revelations that just kept coming, and especially in my marriage, like let him be the man, you be the woman, there's power in that, not the masculine. But I think I feared men so much, I started to become one, like in my energy, you know, and not that I feared men necessarily. I wanted to be. I wanted to be in control.
Probably the control thing. Yeah. Like I wanted to be powerful when if you looked in the mirror, you would realize that you already are so powerful.
Yes.
Without having to try to fit another person that you think you need to be.
Yeah.
It's so wild because our truest selves is where we hold our greatest power. Mm-hmm. It's not in being something other than that we think we need to be. Mm-hmm. We already are, but these powerful, beautiful being.
Yeah. And there's a role for both. You know, I'm not a feminist by any means. I just think that women have a responsibility with the power that we have to uplift other women. And instead of, like you were saying, the bullying part, you know, so often that happens where girls are just mean girls. Yeah. We don't realize the power that comes behind that and that feminine power. But also with the masculine, you know, we're not trying to hate on the men because there's a role for them too. We need the men. We need the masculine to like comfort the feminine, to hold us that stability so that we can go out and create. We're creators. Yes. We create children in our body. Like, it's the most insane, powerful thing. It really is. Yeah. And if we just stop to think about it for a second, we're like, oh shit, we got it backwards. Yeah. We got it backwards. Yeah. And look at men, no offense, but guys can't do a lot without the female. When they see a guy who gets sick and tell me that they're the strong one, okay? You know, it's just...
No, it's so true.
I just find it fascinating. So to me, that was one of my most beautiful lessons, and having to like see and I had to play different roles of my family members too. Like I got to experience what an experience. Okay. I mean, how personal do we want to rip Band-Aids off here? Do we want to get real deep? Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that was really the most, like the thing that stuck out most for me during my journey was the first night I kept going back to this basement of a babysitter. And I was like, why am I in the basement? And like the whole thing was staged, things I had forgotten about, but like what resides in the subconscious is very vivid still. And there were like, we used to always play doctor down there because he had a bunch of boys, you know, kids do stupid shit. So we would like play with toys, and I kept being like, okay, I'm in the basement. I kept going on this loop. I'm in the basement. I'm in the basement. We're playing. We're in the basement. We're playing. And then I was like, okay, we're playing doctor. Okay, we're in the basement playing doctor. And then the next night it came up again in my second ceremony. And then all of a sudden I had this thing, like Mother Aya was like, where's the dad? Where's the dad? Because I always remembered the mom, babysitter. I always remembered the kids. I always remembered the experience. And it was like, where's the dad? And the second I was like, oh, the dad was there? There was a dad present when I was a kid babysitting us? And then it took me through this journey of like a little bit of a sexual assault that I had just blocked out completely in my head.
Oh, I just got chills.
So, and I was like, did that happen? Did that happen? And I like got stuck again on this little loop. Like, did this happen? The second I said, okay, maybe it happened. What happens if it did? And then all of a sudden, my journey went from like this repetitive loop of frustration to boom, 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 explaining everything and why. That brought me up till I was like 15. Wow. So I had like some issues growing up, like getting in pools and stuff would be really irritating to my feminine parts, like the ocean. I was like, why am I having these issues? And my mom would take me to doctors. So I had to see what it felt like for my mom to not be able to help her child, like what that must have felt like for a parent. And then I had to see my sister and what she saw. Oh my God, it's gonna make me cry. Wow. And I had to see my sister. I literally have
freaking chills right now.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like what she felt to not be able to like help me in those situations. Like
you're making me cry.
And then I had to like just accepting it. And then I realized, okay, like maybe this guy, maybe that's what happened. That's why I was having those issues. I just had to see the pain of different people in my family. And the craziest part of all of it is I've always had this like deep love in my heart for my stepdad. I'm like, God, I love him so much. Like, why do I love him so much? And then like Mother Aya was like, he's the only man in your life who hasn't desired you as a child. Like, that's sick. Like that was a sick, beautiful lesson. And my mom called me the next day. She's like, I know you're in the jungle. I know you're doing all this stuff. I just want you to know your stepdad fell out of the bed last night. Oh my God. She's like, what are you doing down there? He's never done that. And I think that like he felt it. And my sister called me the next morning. She's like, I had this crazy dream about you. And like, obviously the kids from the babysitter played doctor because the dad was abusing them. And I had to like see what it was like for the other kids. It was just this really like weird, beautiful thing. So when I say that healing and ayahuasca can bring up stuff, it's not for the weak-hearted. I mean, you better go into it because there are things that reside that you repress that you don't even know reside there. Yeah. And but then I also forgave him because I was like, okay, like he was doing these things that were creating these pains to me and my family, but obviously there was something there for him. He must have been abused by his parents, you know? And so like having compassion for him, compassion for the kids, compassion for my mom. It was just this completely overwhelming experience of just love instead of like hate, you know. It was shifted, and then I let it go, and it's never been an issue since. Wow. So
it's wild how much we hold back, because I actually recently read about this, that it's like for a lot of us in a lot of our lives, like it's like we're in a fight or flight stage. So like our brain, like what's the word? Like forgets about it. But it's still like deep within us in our subconscious. Like it's still a part of us, but we force ourselves to forget it because like we're in survival mode. So it's like when things come up, it's like, oh shit, I forgot that even happened.
Yes.
It's so crazy.
That repression. Yeah. And I think, I do Reiki. I like to do energy healing. And one of the things I've been discovering through energy healing is that I believe, and not everyone has to believe the same thing, but what I've learned and something that I've kind of uncovered is that I think that cancer is a cancer is a form of repressed energy and repressed emotions. And what we don't allow to come up can turn into disease. So, you know, my dad just recently passed of stomach cancer. And I think that his was anger. It was anger being pressed down so much. And he just never was able to process that emotion. And by doing so, it created cancer. I work with women who have breast cancer, and I realize that maybe it's from taking care of and nurturing other people so much they forget to nurture themselves. It's this repression of not me, but you, not me, but you. And then by doing so, you neglect yourself. So just a theory I've been kind of playing around with lately. And I think ayahuasca really helps when you can't see yourself. It goes in, this medicine goes in there and it helps you bring stuff up to the surface to release. Yeah. And it releases those things because it's good for your health. It's good for your mind. It's good for your body. And there were moments during my ceremony where I actually had like a doctor that came in and like did all this work. I was like, okay, come on in. Like chopped up all this stuff and moved all this energy out. And that's when we were talking about purging, like you're pooping and puking. You're not just pooping and puking to poop and puke. You're doing, it's very intentional.
It's a release. Yeah.
And so after this doctor was like, okay, and now you're ready to go. We got to clean you out. I was like, what does that mean? I sat up and I puked into this bucket. And it was like, okay, you're puking because now you're releasing all this stuff that no longer serves you. And then I look in the bucket, which I felt like I'd been puking gallons of vomit when we'd been fasting. So that wasn't the case. And I look in the bucket, there's this little demon looking at me and he's like, you don't need me anymore. And I was like, I guess not. And then it dissolved and it was gone. And I was like, whoa, that was literally trippy. But that's the power of ayahuasca. And, you know.
So I remember having this experience actually. It was funny because it was after I took like a massive number 2.
Did you purge?
It was a purge. It was a release for sure.
Took a poop.
But I just remember sitting on the toilet. It's the most craziest, weirdest thing. But I just remember sitting on the toilet and I had the most profound moment. How freaking weird and ironic.
You got to tell us about it.
So I literally remember it's almost like I forgot I was human. Because I remember looking at my hands. I brought up my hands and I was like, whoa. I have hands. And then I start looking at my body and I'm like, I have a body. And then I remember I start touching myself and I'm like, I'm real. I am like this physical being in this journey of life. And then I remember obviously clean myself. I go and look in the mirror. Yeah, I wiped. I go and I blushed. I'm pretty sure. I hope.
Who knows? Your turn's probably still there.
Oh my God. 4 years later. So I remember I go and look in the mirror and I was like, wow.
You looked in the mirror?
Yeah. And I had this moment where I was like, I'm alive and life is so beautiful. It's beautiful that I'm here. And I remember just like giving myself a hug and like embracing that moment of like feeling alive, feeling like importance, feeling like
I love that.
I'm meant to be on this earth. Just like one of those beautiful moments. So yeah, ayahuasca.
I want you to talk about your puking in the ground.
Oh God.
I know.
You remember that?
Of course. Okay, just so y'all know too, when I met Emily, this is when I was starting to get curious about going to do ayahuasca again. And and Marissa had told us that you did it. I was like, I gotta talk to her. Because you were the only person I knew that had done it. I was like, you gotta tell me everything. So I think we went and got lunch and you literally talked to me for 2 hours. I was like, I'm going. I'm doing it. And that story was really impactful because I was curious about pooping and puking. I was like, what happens? And this was the story you shared.
Okay, so I remember this was my third ceremony. And the third ceremony was also very impactful. I feel like I had gotten to a place where I was so in my masculine. Oh my God, it's all coming together. I was so in my masculine at this time where I was just like, I don't know. I was also so like, how do I explain this well? But I was so like content, I guess, not even content, forcing myself to be content with my life at this season because of the spirituality that I was taught, where it was like, it is what it is. You need to be happy with what you have type of thing. So I remember doing this ceremony and I remember I had my first cup and I was like, okay, I like went deep into a journey. I remember I was like, okay, I need to have another cup. I tried to have another cup. I'm like, I was like back to my old self where it was like, Emily, don't be a little bitch. You know, you can't just have one cup. What the hell is wrong with you? You have to have like, so the first ceremony I had like 3, you know, like, and I wanted to go deeper and deeper. I was at a place where I was just like, I just want to fucking heal myself. Like I'm over like not being happy because, you know, like, yeah, it was like this whole thing. So I remember I go to have the second cup and I can't put it down. Like it won't go down. Like I just kept throwing it up. And I remember I would try and I kept throwing it up. And I remember I ended up like just looking at this tree, the tree that I was throwing up in. And I was just like, I had this beautiful moment with like Mother Earth and like nature that it was just like, you are a part, like we are one type of thing. Like I had this whole moment where I saw it, I feel like I saw it breathing and I like just felt so alive with it. And it was like this whole moment where it's like, you don't need to like have all of these things, external things, in order to experience the fullness and beauty of life. You know, it was almost like you don't need to have, like, stop being like so much into your ego, thinking that you need to like have a certain amount achieved in order to like achieve like what you want.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then here's the moment. Oh God. So then I remember going to like a corner and I was just having this moment with myself where I couldn't purge. Like I needed to let go and I just couldn't. And then finally I did. I remember sitting there screaming, like I was like, oh, like just like fighting with myself because like my ego was just so like in the forefront that like I was not like letting go until finally I released. And I remember my face. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah, I just cried.
Yeah, I cry all the time now. So I remember my face ends up in my vomit. And it's like, it was like this lesson from like the universe where it's like, put your freaking ego to the side, look at you with your face and your vomit. It was almost like one of those things where it's like, you are not like, you are nothing, but you are everything, you know, like type of like thing where it's like
a humbling experience.
Yeah, super humbling.
Like somebody had your head.
Yes,
like,
that's what it felt like. Yeah, that's what it felt like. Where it's like, you don't need all of these things. You know, that was the whole lesson. It's like, put your ego aside. You don't need anything other than yourself and your power to achieve and receive all of the beautiful things of life. Wow. It was like, I remember that moment was like, whoa. And then I actually haven't done ayahuasca since because I feel like just from that lesson, I'm like, wow, I have the power.
Yeah.
I don't need my ego. I don't need to be anything other than who I am in order to be accepted in this world, in order to be good enough, in order to be worthy enough. Who I am is enough.
Yeah.
And that's all I need. And that's all I ever could be in this life. And that's how I will achieve all of the beautiful things. That's why kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, like, yes, it hurts me that so many people hate me and talk smack about me.
Do you think people hate you?
I don't know.
Do you think people really hate you? Or is that just a story?
I don't know. It could just be a story.
Has anybody come up and like, Emily, I hate you?
Not saying I hate me, but not tell me that they hate me. But I know a lot of people talk smack, and people say, smack. Yeah, they say their things. I'm exaggerating about the hate.
How many people you think are talking smack?
Oh, I don't know.
Guess.
I don't know. It was also a toxic friendship that I used to have that would tell me.
Guess.
I don't know.
Give me a number. Just pretend.
I don't know.
In your mind, what number do you think people are talking smack?
I have no idea.
Guess. Make it up. I don't know. Just make it up. Pull a number. First number that comes to your head. What is it?
20.
Okay, 20 people. How many people love you?
A lot.
Okay, give me a number.
I know a lot.
Give me a number.
I don't know. Yeah, definitely like my immediate family and my closest friends. Maybe 40 people.
Oh, no. Okay, guys, look. If you love Emily, I want you to comment on this podcast right now because she needs to see that more than 20 people that don't like or talking shit, how many people actually love her. I think we all need to make some comments because there are thousands of people love you and you change so many people's lives and you need to shift the pendulum to where those people aren't having so much weight. Because the people that are talking shit, they let them talk shit. They're only talking shit. Oh, here it goes. Stop. Those people are only talking shit because they're talking shit about themselves. They see things about you. They like, again, that holding you back. They want you to be with them. They want you to stay down with them because that makes them comfortable. And same thing. And I'm saying it to you because I see it in myself, that this repression of our power. Get up there. Get up to that high rate because when you go up to that level, Emily, and you change yourself and you change your life, you're going to bring those 20 people with you. And you have a responsibility to bring these people who are talking smack up, get them out of that low vibration and bring them up.
I know.
So let's not keep them down there. Let's bring them up with us. All right. And if you're out there and you talk smack about Emily, you better comment below too.
Oh, it's funny because they all listen and it's just, I don't know why people like to tell me about the people that talk smack about me and like.
Yeah, don't tell her.
It doesn't like, it doesn't affect me, but it does.
Yeah.
Because it's like, damn, I genuinely care about people.
Of course.
And like, I share my shit because like I want you to be happy and thriving too. Mm-hmm. So like I feel like a lot of times like I almost have to put myself down in order to feel like not like almost to like I don't know like to not feel like I'm bragging about myself or like I'm too happy or like I'm too much, you know, like that's always been my battle. Same. You know, like with my with my last relationship. Hold on, I just lost audio.
Okay.
Hello.
I hear you.
It's this mic. Yeah, like just in my last relationship, I just felt like I was never enough. And that's like something that I've kind of like still been dealing with where it's just like, when I hear that people talk about me, it's like, great, what did I do now? And I also have that people pleasing side where like, I want to be loved because like, that's that's literally my weakness and my strength. Like that I love so hard that like, I want it back, you know, like I want the same thing back. So.
But these people who, okay, let's talk about that. Like why do you think people tell other people when they're saying bad things about them? What do you think they're trying to prove? Are they trying to be like, I'm a loyal friend. I've got your back. I'm going to share. Why do people do that, you think?
It depends on the person.
Okay.
And I can tell. Mm-hmm. I can kind of tell where it like with like an old friendship, it was like she wanted to bring me down. Yeah. It felt like that. Some people, I think they just like are having my back and they're like, I just want to let you know, like, be careful with this person, blah, 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 XYZ, whatever, sure. Blah, blah. Because I am very like loving and giving and trusting of people. And I'm just like, you know, like everyone is good. Yeah. You know, for me, I'm like, okay, if like literally, I remember one of the girls that like called me a slut. She was like, I literally wrote her back and I was like, cool, I'm a slut for being with one person. Never been a slut in my life. Like,
you're the non-sluttiest person I've ever
literally
met.
Like what? I remember I was like, I sent her like the nicest thing. I just remember saying like, I'm sending you so much love. I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, you know, like as much as it hurt me that like people are thinking this way of me, like I still send them love.
Good for you.
You know, like, and I genuinely feel that. Like, I'm like, usually when people are like, I hear things about people or like, or if I feel like not so good about somebody, I'm like, I genuinely send them love and I feel bad for them.
Because you know what it feels like to suffer. You've suffered so much from depression and cutting. Yes. And it's like, we don't, and that's, if we could just look at it that way, that people are saying things, people are acting a certain way, people are doing things because they're suffering. We're all suffering.
Yeah. And I always bring myself back to that point.
Yeah. But at the same point, you also don't want to like self-sacrifice yourself.
Exactly.
Where's that balance of, I don't need you in my life. I love you and I don't want you to suffer, but I don't need you in my life. So you can suffer over there, and I hope the right person comes along and helps you see that. Because it's not going to be me, because I don't have the space to do it, right? Yeah. And so there's a way to do it. And Emily, you're the most incredible person. Oh my God. You guys people only see a glimpse of you on social media. It's that one part that you want to share. But there's this whole other side of you that is just so pure and loving and kind and uplifting.
I feel the same about you.
You do so much for so many people. And I love that you're in your power. This was something I told my girlfriend the other day. I was like, because she was afraid, similar to us. She's like, because she's making all this money now. And she's like, my friends don't really make this money. So I don't know. I don't want them to feel a certain way about not making money. I said, you have a responsibility to show that, because you're going to bring your whole friend circle up with you. Mm-hmm. We like to see other people, like seeing you and like you guys. I wish y'all could see the studio. The studio is sick. If you haven't come down, they need to get their butts down here and book a session with you, because this place is insane. But really, it's like it makes you see, oh, I can do that too. I can do that. She did this. I can do this. Oh, she made that
that's
money.
My whole like narrative too, with like sharing the things that I do. It's like, you can do this too.
Yeah. Maybe add that into some of your marketing. Like, this is how I got here. If you ever need help getting here, let me know. Like, maybe open up a little bit to show people how they can do it too. Yeah. Because I think often, and you're going to have haters. First, people hate, of course, then they want to know what you did. Yeah. There's this path, right? And then they become your bestie. So hang tight when people are hating on you. In my opinion, I think that's when you're doing something really great. Yeah. And so don't stop. Some people just shut down at that point. Yeah. That's not the time to shut down. That's the part to like go full throttle.
Well, that's why I feel like in this season, at least for me, I've been that's kind of why I haven't been podcasting too. I've been so in my lane that like, I don't even know what anybody else is doing. Like, I haven't really like been around friends. I haven't really been around like anyone, which is kind of like, I miss everyone. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm so focused and so in my lane, and like, I am destined for really great things, and I know they're coming, and like I've been working for years for like the life that I have now, but I've been working towards it, you know, like I've been putting in the work, and a lot of it is me working on myself. That's honestly like what has changed everything for me, just knowing that I'm worthy of like becoming a better version of me.
Yeah. And how do you feel like you got to that point? How have you gotten to really find your true authenticity? Like, if someone's out there and they're like, how do I do that? It's one thing to hear it, but how do they do it? What would you tell them?
Oh my God. I think, so for me, I was told so much that like I needed to change. I needed to be better. Like, you know, for my last relationship, it was always like, Emily, do you not see yourself? Do you not see what you're doing, who you are? Like, so it's to the point where I was like, okay, I need to fix myself, because I'm apparently this fucked up person. That's how I felt for so many years, where it's like so much is wrong with me. I'm not a good person. So like I was almost like I was brought down to the floor so much that I had no other choice but to get up and find myself. Sometimes, honestly, like we just need to be at our lowest low in order to be at our highest high. You know, like that moment where it's like, I have no other choice but to stand up. What am I going to stay here on the floor being dragged around? Or am I going to stand up and climb this mountain?
And did you climb that mountain?
I climbed the mountain.
Was it worth it?
It was so worth it. I literally, if I can explain, I remember I explained this actually to a lot of friends, where it's like, I felt like I was climbing up this mountain carrying so much on my back. And when I got to the top, I just kind of released everything. And that's when I let go of my old life, where it's like, I don't have to be anything other than who I am anymore. I can't do it anymore. I felt like I had to be this perfect pastor's wife for so long. I had to be careful with what I said on the podcast. I remember every time I would do anything, like people would be telling me, Emily, be careful with what you're saying. Ooh, you probably shouldn't wear that. Ooh, that's a little bit much. Ooh, that's a little bit too, you need to like be a little better than that. Like,
who are these people? Just random people that would come up to
church
you?
Church life, you know, religion. So it was, I remember there's just so many instances. People would send emails because like my clothing wasn't appropriate enough. Some woman sent me a long DM telling me that she saw me at church, and obviously this is many years ago, like, but it has affected me to become the person I am today. That's why I'm talking about it. But I remember she sent me like this super long DM saying that like she wasn't happy with the way that I treated her. Mind you, I was this really depressed girl still at the time. Like, I had no idea what the fuck I had to do or say to be a pastor's wife. There's no manual on it, you know, other than who like my past partner would tell me who I had to be. So I'm like, okay, I have to be perfect and I have to say hi to everyone. I have to make sure like I am, you know, like on point. Mm-hmm. So I remember she was super unhappy because she's like, you didn't even say hi to me, blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel very welcomed. And I'm like, lady, I don't even welcome myself. I don't even know who I am. Like, how am I supposed to welcome you when like, I'm just this suppressed girl. Like, I don't know any better.
Did you say that to her? Do you remember what you said?
Oh, I don't remember. I'm like, I remember telling her, I'm like, I'm very sorry. I'm like, even though I am this quote unquote pastor's wife, like, I'm sorry that I couldn't like live up to your expectations of me. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, this is new to me. I remember I said like stuff like that, like stuff along those lines. Like, I'm doing the best that I can.
Did she
like,
respond?
Genuinely. It's funny because she wrote me back years later and she's like, I just wanted to apologize for what I sent you, blah, blah, blah. Like, but, that was like one of many messages. Other people would tell me like, oh, you're image of God. You shouldn't be dressing this way. Mind you, I changed my whole wardrobe to be a pastor's wife. Like, I tried to be like less of me as possible. So it was a really hard journey. So I feel like back to that question that you had asked, what was the question again?
I don't even know. That thing's gone, girl.
It was how can you help? Yeah.
Find their true authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's like, you just sometimes have to get to a point where it's like, you have no other choice. And that's how I felt, where it's like, I have no other choice and I don't want to be this anymore. And I want to experience the fullness of life. And ayahuasca gave me that power. It taught me that I have that power actually. Wow. In order to experience this life at its fullest.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What about you?
Oh God.
What would be your...
Trying to find true. I think I'm always working on trying to find my true authenticity. Like, and I find I'm trying to be more aware of how I feel in certain situations and environments, and trusting the feelings more than the mind. Because there'll be times where I'm in a situation, I'm like, I really don't want to be here, but I used to force myself to stay.
feel that so much. Oh, in church life. I had no other choice. It's like, you have to be here.
Right, but do you?
No.
You don't.
I don't.
It's only, that's what we tell ourselves.
Only because we're people pleasing and we want to achieve, like we want to perceive that we are something that we are not.
Right.
And we want to be liked, valued, wanted, enough.
When you already are liked, valued, and enough. And so I think there are still moments, and even in my marriage, there are times where David's like, we need to be here, and I don't want to be there, but I still go. But then I'm like, so I'm trying to equally allow David that space too. If he's like, I really don't want to be there, instead of my old self would have been like, come on, you have to be there for me. Why aren't you there? You're not supporting me. I'm like, okay, I need to trust him. If he doesn't want to be there, I don't want to force him to be somewhere he doesn't want to be. Yeah. Because he's pushing up against a part of himself, and me trying to make him people please, to please me, to please others. It's not fair. Yeah. And so there's this projection. And so I think that's been a huge lesson. And something I'm constantly working on, just being aware, okay, if I'm feeling anxious, I don't need to be here. If my emotions are coming up, I don't need to be here. If I'm like kicking and screaming while I'm getting ready to go somewhere, maybe I don't need to be there. And it's okay to say no. Being okay to say no, I think, is really important. Yeah. Because I'm a yes person.
Boundaries are huge. Yeah. And life-changing.
Yeah. And what you were saying about that woman too, I think that was it's such a good reminder for all of us, where if you are upset with somebody because they said something or didn't say something or did something, you have to remember that they're having their own life too. So like this woman who got upset with you for not acknowledging her, she doesn't know what you're going through. She didn't know you were battling depression. So you never know what people are going through. Yeah. And you only experience your side of it. And so just being mindful that there's another side of the story. There's your side, there's their side, there's the truth that lies somewhere in between, and it's always been such a huge thing. Like same thing with your divorce. It's like you have a side, your ex has a side, and somewhere in the middle is whatever the truth is. To me, I feel like you have a truth and he has a truth. And then there's another, another just neutral perspective. Yeah. So it's just been trying to understand all sides of the story and to like not be so self-centered. Like, it's my story. This is what happened to me. You did. And
that's why I think that's why I never really like opened up too much about my divorce, because I didn't want to come off from that. Like, I'm like, I'd rather just people think I'm the bad guy than me try too hard to be understood and seen. I was like, let me just stay quiet in here in my cocoon. I'll allow other people to play victim if they want to play victim. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm just, if I'm going to talk about things, I want to talk about it from the perspective of like my story, my side, and my healing. Not trying to bash anyone, not trying to like prove a point or be the right person, because I don't care about that.
I thought you handled it so gracefully.
Thank
Emily,
you.
you were great. And the
Thank
fact
you.
that you weren't out there bashing, because so many women do that.
Yeah,
And I know
wanna
that,
do that.
I know a lot was said. I mean, actually, I don't know if a lot was said here. See, again, the same thing. But I think from you, like for a minute, you wanted to even repress your current relationship, because like people are going to think that I cheated, or they're going to think that I met this other person, and because the timing, when that wasn't the fact. But it's like you couldn't even enjoy it and be present in your current relationship. That just happened out of nowhere, thank God.
Yeah,
for both of y'all, because it's such a beautiful connection.
I remember calling you and I was just like, Stefani, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, this is so fast. Like, well, how is this happening? I'm like, but it was just, I felt so alone for so long that I was so ready to like be loved wholeheartedly. Yeah. And I just felt this like instant connection. I remember the first time that I hung out with RJ, like I remember telling you about it. We literally stayed up talking until like, I don't know, 4 a.m. maybe. We were at the beach and we just like, we're like having the most vulnerable conversations just about like our deepest, darkest secrets, and like how we've never felt like seen. We've never felt enough. And like, it was like, oh my God, you felt that too. And like, we just like felt safe. And I had never felt that ever in a relationship. I've never felt safe enough to like fully express how I have felt. Yeah. And even now to this day, that's why I love him so much, because like, okay, yesterday I was having a moment. I've been on my period, so like TMI.
On a white couch? What's wrong with you?
I'm wearing olive pants, so we're good. So I was like kind of being a bitch. So like I had just gotten ceramic coating done to my car, and like I was gonna leave my car at my aunt's. It couldn't get wet. It starts freaking pouring rain. It doesn't fit in my aunt's garage. So I'm just like, I'm like overwhelmed because I'm like super busy with work. I have so much happening. So I'm just like, I'm calling him. I'm like, I don't know what to do. The garage doesn't close. My car is too big for this garage, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm like, I think I need to get a cover. I guess I'll get a cover. And then I have Blaze with me. Blaze is being a baby because he just got neutered like 2 weeks ago. So like he has to be, he's just like so bored and he's crying. So I'm just overwhelmed in this moment. And then I have my period on top of that. So not make it worse. So like it was just so many things. So then he's like, okay, do you want to go to the store? Whatever. And I was like, why can't you go? Like, can you go to the store? And he's like, so it was like this whole thing. I was like being mean to him. He's like, I'm going to go to the store. Okay. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll go to the store.
Guys, if a girl says it's fine, it's not fine.
It's not. It's not fine. He knew. Well, he knew. That's why he's like, do not go to the store. I am going. Even though I think he wanted me to go because I was closer to it. But I was just like, it's just too much. I'm just too like,
I'm shutting down. I'm shutting down.
Yeah, pretty much. But I didn't say that because like, you know, I wanted to just be in my like not healthy space. So I was just like, all right, whatever, go. Thank you. Like, I didn't say thank you, but I texted him after, like as soon as I got home, and he's like, no, I texted him as soon as I got home, and I was like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, I was really mean. I'm like, I'm just like, feel overwhelmed and blah, blah, blah. So like, but like, I have that safe space with him to actually express how I feel, you know, because he creates that open, safe space. And like, instead of him coming back at me and being like mean back, he isn't. Right. You know, so like, I've never had that. So like, it's just amazing and beautiful. And that's why like I'm so like, don't settle for just anything. Never. Like the right person is like there for you.
Do you remember what I said to you after you had that night talking with RJ? Do you remember?
What'd you say?
2 words.
What'd you say?
Well, kind of 3, 2.5. I said, you're fucked.
Oh, yes, I do remember that.
Because I had never heard you talk about anybody like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like instant.
I remember that.
I was like, uh-oh, Emily. I was like, you're like, I don't want to, I'm just
I remember I was like, I was like, I just want to have fun. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not trying to be in anything serious. I'm just trying to live my best life. I've never been single. I've always been like the good girl. I've always been like in long relationships and like, just a good girl. Like I've never been crazy. I wasn't allowed to be. My parents freaking barely let me sleep over my friends' houses. Yeah. So I was like, I finally want to be fun and like live my best life, have an apartment in downtown in Miami and like just live my life.
But you get to live your life. You get that apartment. Yeah. You get to have your man. I mean, it's always funny that way, right? Again, Want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Yeah.
Here's RJ right at the end of, the end of one era, the beginning of another
Yeah.
one. And it's just such a perfect, I love him so much. I love the way he makes you feel. I love the way you are with him. There's like this playful giddiness and just this innocence that comes out of both of you.
Thank
and
you.
he holds such a beautiful space for you and
He
vice
does.
versa. And he lets you be the girl. And it's fun.
Yeah, I love
It's
it.
fun.
Yeah.
He's a
That's
great
another
guy.
thing too. Yeah. Him like bringing him around like friends. I'm like, I get so much like anxiety. Like when I bring like my partner, I used to like bring my partner cause I'm like, oh, like, are they going to feel comfortable? But like literally RJ like fits into like
everything.
Yeah. He's just so like chill and like, okay, I'm here. Like I'm here and I'm present.
Yeah.
Cause that's important.
But he's also really good about like being firm. I noticed, like when he has to be, but he's not aggressive.
No,
but he can
not at
also
all.
say
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing where you're like, yes, sir.
Yeah. I kind of like it. I'm
I
like,
do too. I was like, okay, Dad.
yeah, I was going to say that, but I'm like, I don't know who listens to this. So let me not get too crazy.
I think there was a
Just like,
moment
okay,
like
yes,
when
sir.
y'all had to leave, when you had to leave on New Year's. I
Oh,
was like,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
go. Why do you have
Yeah.
to go? I was like having this pouty little girl
Yeah, yeah,
moment.
yeah.
I'm like, you have to go. He's like, yes, we have to go. We're leaving now. And I was like, yeah,
Like,
okay.
no, I don't want to go.
He's like, we're leaving right now. We got to go. I was like, yes, sir. But it was like, there was like nothing
Like,
attached.
it's not me. Yeah.
It wasn't
yeah.
mean.
It
It
was
wasn't
just like,
aggressive. It was
yeah.
just very matter of fact.
Yeah.
And it was like very
Like,
respected. Like he has this respected energy
Yeah.
about him where you can play with him, but also like don't cross him.
Yes. And I love that
I do
because
too.
people, yeah, it's
Do
just like this,
too.
like he's like, has this perfect like balance of like,
Yes.
he's very emotional, but he's very like masculine.
Yes.
Like,
He's a sensitive masculine,
yes,
right?
yes. And I love it.
Me
yeah.
too. You picked the most perfect. Anyway, this
No.
podcast doesn't have to be about RJ
I
and
know.
how much we love
I
him.
know.
But we love you, RJ.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh my God. This is so much fun.
It's so much fun.
Do you have any like words of advice for the people?
Which, oh gosh, where do I begin on that?
I don't know, just
in
anything. How
general?
do we live? Yeah. How do we like live our best life before we finish?
Before we finish life.
No, just before we finish the
Oh.
podcast.
Before you die. Here's my advice. Let it all go.
Like, what's the greatest piece of advice you have heard or you give yourself?
Don't take anything personally because, again, it has nothing to do with you. And if you can offer kindness to somebody when they're being the most bitch to you, find kindness. Kindness always wins. And, like, for instance, the other day I had this battle with a friend about a project we were working on, and I've never butted up against anybody in business. I've been in business since 2011. And this one was really challenging. And he went to the gauntlet and he was pulling up all these nasty things. And old version of me would have just ripped his face off. I'm like, let me put you in your place, motherfucker. But I didn't. I was like, I understand. And I still love you the same. And I'm here for you when you're ready to pick back up.
Yeah.
So again, don't get caught up in the emotions behind things. Even though I say trust your feelings, don't react.
I think,
you know.
so what I learned about that is like, I said this earlier, allow your feelings to be your guides.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I'm angry. I need to work through this anger in order to get out of it. Like, I'm not in like my aligned space or the space that I'm my natural state of being.
Yeah. And maybe that came up and I was supposed to react and that would have dissolved all the energy. But instead, because I didn't react, now it's coming through different facets, like my dog and my
That's
tire.
another thing
and
too.
so,
Yeah.
So like pick and choose. But I mean, I held my ground because there were definitely questions about business where he was like, I want you to do this. And I'm like, old me would have succumbed and been a people pleaser and traded what I believe is a value in my business to make sure he was okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I put my foot down. I was like,
Good for you.
No, we're not doing that. This is how it's going to be. And if you want to do it, great. If not, find somebody else. And it was like, you're such a bitch. And I wasn't being,
Wow.
I was being firm in my boundary. So
Good.
that would be my advice. Like, know who you are and know what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. And it's never personal. His reactions to me had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It's his own stuff and business, personal, anything. Just, be kind. Just love each other. What about you?
That.
Any advice you have today?
I think I gave it. Right? I know. I think I gave it.
Yeah. Climb the mountain.
Yeah.
Stand up.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah. You are destined and you can be wherever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything begins with yourself.
Yeah. And like baby steps that, if you look at it, it's a huge picture and it can be very overwhelming. And oftentimes people, no matter what it is in life, you could say, I don't want to do it. It's too much.
Yeah.
And so don't get overwhelmed. Just take one small step up that mountain at a time. And you might take a few steps backwards along the way, but just keep climbing.
Yeah.
And if you need support, Emily and I are always here however we can. Like reach out to us. We've been there. We're still going through things.
Yes.
We're not perfect.
All the time. Yeah.
And if you ever need support, we'll help.
Yes. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So let the people know how they can find you.
You can.
What are all your socials?
My personal is Stefani Baca, and that's like Gwen, Stefani Baca.
I'll tag you in the little description thing.
Yeah, and then our personal, we're working on building up My Time Media right now. That's our social media brand strategist company at the moment.
Love it.
Yeah, thank you.
This was so much fun. I'm so happy we finally got to do this because we've been talking about this for way too long.
Me too. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I love you. I'm so grateful for you, your friendship. You're an incredible human being who has been such a crucial part of my life and my journey, and I'm forever grateful for you. And of course, you made me cry again. Thanks a lot.
Likewise, you made me cry. Are you kidding me? I think the camera stopped.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you next time.
See you next time.